Welcome back to the Trevor Theismann Show. Today, I'm going to be focused all on the Chaparral Surf Series and how they performed at the 2022 boat show. Now, I know if you are considering this Surf Series style boat, it's going to be the exact same boat as their stern drives, but in the Surf Series, we've got ballast systems that kind of sort of cut an awful lot into your storage. Now, if the boat's big enough, does it matter? Of course not, unless you've got some insane things you need to keep on a boat. You've got plenty of room for the essentials, but the Surf Series most definitely will cut into your storage. I think that it's safe to say that most of the boats that are becoming these Surf Series with the forward drives, they haven't quite embraced the subfloor ballast concept that Mastercrafts, Malibus, Nautiques, that whole lineup has done. Now, I will say on a side tangent, they also have plugins on those style boats for more ballast bags, and I've never been on one that they're not used as well. So let's be honest, there probably isn't as much storage gained on those boats as you'd like anyway. But back to the Chaparral. If you're looking at a forward-facing drive that is a surf boat, I have also been, kind of dabbling in this world. Do you want a walkway? Do you still want to tie up and swim with the kids and have a great experience? I think those are the questions that you're asking yourself. And I don't know that wake-style boats or that design is not going to give you that experience, but you can't tell me that there's not a difference between the two boats. If you can go up and tie up and you're really going to have a fun time swimming with your kids, this Chaparral boat is really designed for that. I don't know that you'll find a better back end. Now, I will say aesthetically, I wasn't exactly in love with the look of it. It doesn't flow with the boat quite as much as a lot of these other design things are. It seems to me that a lot of boats, there's a lot more flow to the boat. This one really does seem like a humongous deck was strapped to the back of the boat. Practicality, awesome. Is an amazingly big deck. No pun intended. I get it's kind of sounded funny how I said that, but it is just a really big deck to where you can have your seating in an upright position, which is important. I think my wife sits with the kids more often than I do, where you can kind of sit on the edge of that rather than being in the water. Some of these, like a crown line style boat, it's a little bit lower. You're sitting maybe 6 to 8 inches off the deck, and you've got your lounger area. This Chaparral, you're up about a foot, which is more like a chair. It's much more of a comfortable height for that position. You can also fold down those loungers into one large layout. That really doesn't do much for my family. We don't really do a whole lot of, just sunbathing on the back. There's always a lot of action with kids. So this back end on this Chaparral Surf Series, I don't know that it can be beat. If you're into the look of the boat, I don't know that it wins that award, but for practicality, it really is nice. Very deep. You can play towards the back of the deck, and then you can also have your seating, and there's plenty of room for both. Sometimes on some of these boats, wake style boats, your deck is not very big, so if you don't have the depth on it, then when you have people sitting in that area, you really cut into the area at which kids can get up and down and jump into. Now, the Chaparral also embraced that, Cobalt style. I think they were the first to kind of do this method where they have the fold-down deck. And it makes it really nice. If you want to climb in and out of the boat, or you have children that are up and down, up and down, up and down, there probably isn't a better method. Now, it is an electronic version, so you hold the button down what seems like an eternity. I'm sure it doesn't take that long, really, in the big scheme of things. But, 4 to 6 seconds sitting there just holding the button while you're bent over when it's 110 outside is not exactly an amazing experience. I don't know that it gets better. The perks of having that step up under the water probably will outweigh the time you're spending pushing this button. But the thing that I think a lot of these companies are missing, though, is if you're moving around doing water sports, I think that most of them seem a little bit like they're suggesting that's how you're going to get in and out of the boat every time. And I don't know that that's the case. If you're tied up, you might bring that thing down once in the daytime. But if you're pulling a surfer or a tuber or something, you're not going to pull that, push that button and hold that thing down for everyone to unload and load every single time. So the height of the water still makes a difference is what I'm saying. If you can still climb up on that deck without pulling down that whole mechanism, that's going to be way better. I didn't see it float. I just I'm kind of telling you my experiences with boating. the easier it is to get up onto that is probably realistically what it's going to look like. And to be quite honest, you may not even want to fold that thing down if you've got a load of kids. They want to jump off and jump off and jump off again. So having more area, if you've got a lot more kids involved, might be even funner for them. So that a side ladder or something may be even still used in that world. But let's move forward in the boat a little bit. The one thing that I would say is a bit of a downside if there is a length requirement in what you're able to host your boat in. Say you got a 28-foot boat slip. Well, unfortunately, if you get a 28-foot boat, it's probably going to be pretty near hanging out the back. You can't really get it directly on front. When you lift the boat, it's either going to move forwards or backwards. So you don't really get to use every square inch all the time with your lift. So if you've got the length requirements, the Chaparral is going to require you to buy a much, much bigger boat to have the same cockpit seating capacity that maybe some of these other boats may have. Now, most of them seem to be moving in that area where they're giving you so much more on the back end of the boat. It's almost like a separate experience because they've changed the cockpit so much to be a smaller boat that, there's some good and some bads. Is it fun to get out there and play behind the boat? Sure. Is most people probably doing that a lot of the day? Absolutely. But you're looking to now buy, when you could have bought a 23 or a 4-foot boat with a standard back design, you're now stuck buying a 26 to 27 foot boat to even have the same size seating in the boat. So if you've got those requirements, you may be looking back for a used boat that's not doing all this stuff on the back end. I think that the 26-foot surf Chaparral boat that we walked through, it probably sat more like a 22 or a 20. 22 is too short. It probably sat like a 23 and maybe some boat models in the past 24-foot boat. It was much smaller. There's not near as many seats in that cockpit area because they're putting them all in that back lounging design. So if you're used to a 23 or a 24-foot boat from 8 years ago, you're going to have to buy a 26 or even a 28-foot boat to have that same usability inside the cockpit. To me, that's a bit of a negative, because I'm required, where we're at is basically 28 feet or lower. So I'm not going to put a 28-foot boat on a 28-foot slip or it's going to hang out the back end, So that's a little bit unfortunate with this boat design, but that back tie-up area, when you're going to tie up or throw an anchor and do some swimming, they pretty much nailed it other than design. It doesn't really flow with the boat, as I said before. As for the electronics, the electronics always worry me. You're getting into a stern drive that when it freezes and gets cold and freezes and gets cold, and these style boats, your stern drive, but this is obviously called a forward drive if you're looking at the surf model. They're coming now with your cruise control and all these stereo integrations into these touch screens. And, all of the boating experience I've had listening to people talk of their boat or when they worked with people or knew someone that knew someone, you know how that goes. The screens are the problem. Every couple of years it seems like everyone has some screen going out and it's a $2,000 or $3,000 fix. Unfortunately, that is not very price friendly, of course. It would be nice if you could just stick an iPad screen in there and download an app. How often are you recycling those types of technologies where that would be ideal? And then you could take it out of the boat in the winter, which would be even better, keep it out of the weather. But that's not how it is. And I'm assuming that as years go on, it'll become more of a norm and maybe they'll figure out a way for there not to be a bug in the system. But the Chaparral, one thing that's also interesting about the Chaparral surf system is, the forward drive technology is not exactly brand new, but it is a little bit newer towards fully embracing that surf model. So the Chaparral has a license agreement with Malibu. So they also have that Surfgate technology. And I think many would argue that Malibu probably has one of the best, if not the best, surf wave stock out of their boat without adding a ton of weight. I haven't really seen a ton of argument there other than, of course, brand-oriented people that are diehard to their brand. But if you look at it for nuts and bolts wise, it looks like most boats are going to be adding an awful lot of weight to their boat to get a bigger wave. But just talking about technology specifically, it seems as though that gate moving outside of the boat, slightly turning it to the side, moving that boat off its axis, that version of making a wave is truly what's making a bigger wave. So your Chaparral will probably most likely have that better surf system or have that better wave in the forward drive world, similar to the Cobalt. They both have those on that, and the other brands do not. But the one thing that I would keep in mind that with these forward drives, like any time, there is a lot of bow rise until you get planed out. So if you're talking about going 11 miles an hour, on most all stern drive style bow rider boats, you are not going to be planed out in this position. So the longer that boat is, the taller that front end is. So like I said a couple minutes ago, if you're looking at getting yourself that 26-foot boat because you needed a 23 cockpit area and you had to upgrade your size, now you've got a bigger boat that's going to be a little bit more bow rise in that as well. So the one thing to always worry about is some of these forward drive boats, if you're not adding more weight to the front, then you're really going to be riding high. Most people are going to want to sit in the back of the boat when you're doing your surfing so they can watch everyone have fun, listen to music, do all the good stuff. So if you're not actually going to put more weight in the front of the boat, I would imagine that baby is going to be nose high and you're going to struggle to see over the front. Now, I can't say that I went on a test drive. I've just seen it. I've been around boats a ton. I know how they drive. I've watched a bunch of videos on this specific boat because I've been looking at possibly buying one for my family as well. So I've seen that when it's ready to surf, that nose is high. Now, I'm tall, so I'll probably not have many problems. I'll probably be able to see over the dash. But my wife is 5'1", so will she be able to? I don't know. A little bit of safety concerns come in. If I'm the guy that wants to go back and surf and my wife can't see over the front of the boat, that's probably not going to be okay. But, let's not chalk it up as that's what's going to happen. I would just more looking at this in a positive way. That don't forget, if you get a boat like this, I think this forward drive technology, if you like the room and the style cut of the boat, I think that if you can get the wave just right, I think it's a better cut for me personally and my family. I like that kind of boat. I like a bow rider. I like to be able to swim out the back of the boat with my family. I've got a lot of memories there. It's an awful lot of fun. So I like this style boat. So I'm not exactly harping on the bow rise, but I would also just say, maybe you think about making this decision and you think about adding lead or utilizing some of these techniques that other style boats do to get the result that they want post. I don't know anybody that buys a wake boat that doesn't put lead in their boat to make the wave how they want it. So keep that in mind if you're looking or interested in this boat and you're really looking at that high bow rise. Maybe you bring 600 pounds of lead with you to your test drive and throw that weight in the front to offset all those butts in the back seats and see how it rides. If you can level that nose out just a little bit, it may be a more of a comfortable drive. Now, I also know that the higher that nose goes or the more weight you have in the back of the boat, the better that wave's going to look. So you may be killing that wave with too much weight in the front. So I think it's more of just a thought. You might check that out if you're looking at it like I am. When I go on a test drive, I'm probably going to be bringing some lead with me because I only like to make the right decision one time. I'm not going to buy a boat and 3 years later think I need to go ahead and get a different one. But overall, I was pleased to see that the Malibu Technology was also in the Chaparral. I personally don't like how it aesthetically looks with that back deck. As I said, it doesn't fit it real well, but man, it's pretty huge and pretty amazing. I will definitely need to test drive one, but all the other pieces of it, there's plenty of room when you get into that 26, 28 foot. If you've got a 4 to 6 person family, you're all going to fit in there just fine with their friends and everything. So that is going to be the Chaparral review that I've got, the thoughts that I've had. I think it's an overall pretty good boat. I'm taking it into consideration, but I think I may be leaning towards possibly the Regal or the Crown line. But stay tuned. Check out the next videos. I'm going to do each one of those boats as well.